Phew.
Hello,
I think we're
humans.
already live, aren't we?
We are live now, yes. Hello,
All
humans,
right,
and
hello.
welcome to the
Conversation,
Harmony and
sorry.
Humanity podcast, where we are all about highlighting the common ground we all share, which includes technical difficulties, for what it's worth, and we are inspiring conversations that lead to real world harmony and understanding. We're your hosts. I am Amethyst Taharic. I'm here talking with Jasmine Vine. Hello, Jasmine.
Hello, Amethyst.
And then Dr. Lino Martinez. Hello, Lino.
Yeah, happy St. Patrick's Day. I had to put in my green.
That's right. Yeah, I got nothing green on, which is okay.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah. We are three transgender humans combining science, spirituality, and lived experience, all with the purpose of showing that we have much more in common than what separates us. So, in today's live stream, we are going to talk about a couple of topics. We were thinking about forgiveness, which is interesting, which comes up because of misgendering, and we can have a little conversation about that. We're going to ask each other loads of questions, but if you're joining us live, we hope that you will make it interactive. You have the power to drive the stream in whatever direction you want by throwing some comments down there in the chat box. And if you're catching this on replay, we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. So let's move on to this. Part of what we had talked about. First of all, did either of you see those that bit about Sarah McBride
I
in the
did.
house? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I even had to
Oh,
show it in class to my students. It was
Did you
disturbing.
really?
It was annoying. Yeah, I did.
Why did you show it in class out of curiosity?
So I showed it in class because one of the classes I teach is diversity,
Mm,
and the topic for this weekend's class was the LGBTQ community.
yeah.
And just so that they are aware of some of the things, some of the ramifications of just the political world right now and people
Yeah.
just being ourselves, let alone Sarah McBride. I mean, it was disheartening, and it was angering. Is that the word?
Yeah.
Aggravating. And it was just, I felt that it was really important for to see it, although they all had seen it and they were all angered about it equally.
Right.
And
Right.
so it just, it's, it's I can't believe it type thing. Like, oh, oh my goodness type attitude. That was my reaction. What?
I was Jasmine, did you see it by the way? Do you know did you see the video for
are we
this?
talking about the same video
Possibly.
where the chairman misgenders her, like
Yes.
Mr. McBride? And
Yep.
yeah, yeah. That was powerful. Like the response to that, the
Yeah.
allyship that I saw,
It
that was
was
pretty nice.
yeah. What surprised me about the whole thing was that Sarah McBride you can see her she goes, "Thank you, Madam
Mm,
Chair." And you can see she's trying to strike back in a very non-confrontational way, which I don't think is a
mm,
bad thing personally. I know she took heat for this. The other guy, I wish I could remember his name. It was a Texas representative, and somebody told me,
mm.
no, 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 sorry. The guy who misgendered her was from Texas. I believe the other guy was from Massachusetts. But he got pissed. Oh my gosh. He was pissed off. And you could
Yeah.
see how uncomfortable that chairperson was, right? Was just like,
Yeah.
oh fuck. What I saw was what there's this guy saying, "Look, I'm towing the party line. Please don't roast me on this. I'm towing a party line." And he didn't look comfortable, and then ran. Right? He's like, "Meeting's adjourned. Bye." Went
Yeah, they
bolting
just
out the
literally
door.
just cut the meeting right then and there. Like
Yeah,
the other guy just couldn't even continue. And it's just,
yeah.
you know what I'm wondering? Is it a bullying? Does he really not see that she's a woman? I mean, obviously, I feel that it's done on purpose.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because he starts by saying, "Well, we've established a standard on the floor, and it's true, right? I mean, what's his face? The Speaker of the House now.
Andrew.
What's his name?
No, go ahead.
Oh, I thought you knew because I can't remember. It's the Speaker of the House, whoever the hell it is, the guy did say, based on Nancy Mace's bit of whatever, we need to have biological sex recognized here. They did make supposedly a rule on the floor. I didn't actually see voting on that particular point, which is something I brought up in a video at some point, that Nancy Mace had introduced it, but then it didn't look like they were putting into the standards on the floor. So this guy's anger, the other guy's anger, going, "Have you no decency?"
Yeah.
I thought was amazing. So
Hmm.
let's actually
I'm
let me.
wondering-
Oh, go ahead, Jasmine.
So there's one aspect of that video that I haven't seen other people talk about, and I'm wondering if either of you noticed it. When he introduces her and she says, "Thank you, Madam Chair," and like goes to go into her thing, as soon as that other person spoke up and was like, "Hold on, excuse me for a second," immediately she apologized.
Who?
And
Sarah McBride
Sarah
did?
McBride,
Ooh, I didn't
she
hear that.
apologized immediately. And it felt as though she felt like she was going to be attacked or, whatnot because she struck back in that way.
Yeah.
And
I missed it.
that
I didn't see
was
that.
really interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
I watched it a few times and I was like, she almost like flustered, like, "Oh my gosh, sorry, I shouldn't have done that." And then she's like surprised that, oh, he's talking about him, like he's calling him out, not me,
Right.
which is interesting. Hmm.
I thought one of the craziest parts was that Keith Self, who was the chairperson, didn't give a rat's ass that he was misgendered. It was not until the other representative starts literally yelling at him, right, that you can see that Self gets uncomfortable. So my point was going to be the person, the woman who was misgendered, Self doesn't care. So whatever. But when a man stands up and goes, "Hey, have you no decency?" Then he's like, "Shit, I better leave the room or I'm gonna, get beaten up or something." That bugged me. That bugged me a lot, because, I mean, I get it. There are obviously patriarchal rules that we're looking at here, but do they have to be so obvious? Like, why? Ugh, that's a bummer.
What's the point of that? What's the point of that behavior? What do you think the point is? What are they trying to get across by?
I don't know. That's the second instance that I've seen, but I bet you it's happened other times.
Mhm.
I don't know. But let's recognize people who are here at this point. I want to say hi to Margie and Morgan and Zoe,
Margie, Morgan, and Zoe, hello.
the trio. Thank you.
Three of them and three of us.
Right. Well,
Oh my god.
there are actually some 10 people, I think, at this point watching, for what it's worth. But
Oh, great.
yeah, all right.
Three
So
of them and three of
So what
us.
about Tuesday when Trump was basically saying that sex um oh well, how did he say it? I watched it on TikTok that sex changes in children are criminal. He's going to criminalize these people. And I thought, what? How is this criminalizing? And why is a criminal saying this?
excellent point there.
How is that a criminal? Anyway, I'm sure there's plenty of real criminals going on out there. So
Right.
I just, it's like, I really truly feel. I heard Sarah McBride talking in one of her interviews that this is really just the administration's way of taking away what's really going on by attacking our community.
Yeah.
And that way people can focus on this community so that they don't really know what's the real deal that they're doing behind I almost said behind the sheets and behind the sheets,
Yeah.
so behind walls. And so, I mean, that's really that's what I feel deep down is the motivating factor of them acting the way that they are to get our attention away with their true agendas.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's
Yeah.
distraction technique.
It is exactly distraction technique.
Yeah.
Exactly
But
what it is.
hi to Bobby, by the way. Bobby Bamlett's here as well.
Hello, Bobby.
Yeah.
But Morgan brings up the point. It feels like the same attack on woke, which is a distraction technique, right? They're like, well, woke is bad. Why is woke bad? Do we have a good reason? And they go, "'cause." And you're like, "Oh, I can wait." And they're like, Shit, I was hoping you wouldn't. You're just supposed to go, yeah, woke is bad, but it's a distraction technique. Weird. It's weird that we have to live in a world like this right now. Um,
But you know something that I truly feel about with what's going on, and I believe that I mentioned this when we briefly discussed some of these political issues going on a couple episodes ago. I really feel that what's going on, in a unconscious universal, of course, I'm always getting spiritual here, but I feel that what's really going on is getting humanity to come and be their best selves and to really show up for one another. And if anything, this is really isn't that bad because it's bringing people together closer than ever before. It's making us speak up more than we ever have. Perhaps that's what we needed.
mhm.
Humanity needed to speak up. We were getting too quiet, and we're exposing ourselves, showing our true colors, and we're really coming together just in ways that I've never seen before in this generation. And so as much as it's disturbing to hear these things, it's also bringing people together, which I think is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I agree. I I don't remember who said it to me. I think it was Morgan actually who mentioned this, that that's exactly the benefit. That if you're going to look for a silver lining, if there is any silver lining in
Well, there's always a silver lining.
well, let me finish my statement. If there is any silver lining in the second Trump really either Trump administration, that's it. Is that it has brought us a common enemy. And I hate
Hmm.
putting it like that, like we're at war or
Hmm.
something, cultural war. But yeah, it gives us a common enemy so that we all end up coming together. And, hopefully what that does is drive real change and smile.
and and on the same
Mm.
topic, perhaps as we see the way many of us are seeing Trump as an instigator or bad, and all this negativity, we can also turn it around and see it that he's a catalyst to provoke positive change rather than negative change.
Right.
And so sometimes we need the extreme opposite to really push us forward. And I mean, that's the same with the universe. It's the same with like the Big Bang theory, like things that are exploding in space. If things don't explode in our face, how are things going to fall into place?
Right. Right. Good rhyme.
That's
Jasmine,
why I laughed at him.
Jasmine, it sounded like you were about to say something. You had a thought.
Yeah, the common enemy is something that popped into my head before, but from the opposite perspective, is that I feel like that sort of divisive political tactic is to create a common enemy in a
Mm,
minority, whether it be trans people or immigrants or bloody whatever they're choosing. It creates a common enemy for people to rally around and focus on the enemy within. And so I don't know how I feel about that language or how I can reframe that because it doesn't feel like that from the other side. But maybe it is because I guess the enemy, it's not necessarily a person, it's fascism. like,
yeah.
mm,
And maybe the better way to call that, I mean, at least, if I were to revise my own phrase, is to say that it's a common purpose
mm,
to fight fascism,
yeah.
as you've put it. So,
Because I don't want it to sound like, trans people aren't the only ones who are fighting this,
oh no,
Right.
not by a long shot.
no,
Hmm.
no,
That's
right.
true. That's true.
Mm,
I would say the entire queer community. Well, I mean, when you think about it strictly, I mean, it's anybody who is not part of the Trump administration, right? I mean, it's anybody who isn't white, it's anybody who isn't male, it's anybody who isn't rich, it's anybody, it's anybody who isn't
Right.
powerful. It's almost everybody. It's striking to think about that the
It
Trump
is. Right.
administration,
mm,
yeah, has been able to alienate.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
it's got to be greater than 3/4 of the population.
mm.
Got to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yet they
good point,
don't
Jessica.
realize that, which is kind of interesting, until it directly affects them. And they go, oh, I didn't realize this was going to affect me. What? Because I'm a single mum. It's like, oh, I've got these issues coming up. And it's like,
Right?
yeah, you're part of diversity and inclusion, my love.
Right. So true.
But it's so interesting how a lot of people that voted for him are now kind of going like, oh, what did I do?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I read, no, who
And
told
that's
me
that
this?
divisive stuff. He says, oh, we're going to focus on this particular minority, and like makes it sound like this common sense thing that everyone should get behind. But really, the motives are so much deeper and so much more widespread as well. But they don't realize that.
yeah.
Right?
It's the whole face eating leopard analogy that goes around.
It's
Right.
just the tariff threats, and it's just, I mean, I was
Yeah.
talking to my mom. My mom's obsessed with this stuff. I mean, when I talk to her, it's probably the first thing she brings up, but she's just thinking that, and she's fearing that there'll be another war, a civil war of some sort.
Mhm.
And I mean, she's seen a lot. She's in her 74, she's lived through Vietnam and stuff, and she's just like, this doesn't feel right, and this doesn't feel good, and the civilians, people are gonna really start turning against him, and there's gonna be a revolt. And I'm always like, Mom, just trying to like go out the other ear, but there might be some truth into that.
I
Well,
hope
there
not.
are ideas around that, but I believe part of Project 2025 was getting to a point where people do revolt and he can basically use martial law and use the powers of that to overtake a whole bunch of things. Like, it's kind of all in the plan. That's what makes it the scary thing.
Well, hopefully, we'll take a turn and not go that way.
Mm.
And
Right. I'm gonna admit some ignorance. I know that's atypical for me. I don't know I don't know what all powers martial law confers. Because I find it hard to
I don't
believe.
either.
But I find it hard to believe that martial law would confer the power for the president ultimately to negate the Constitution. Because it's the Constitution that grants the power of martial law. So, that defines it. So I gotta say, like, I don't know what would happen there.
Seems like he doesn't really care about the Constitution,
No,
though. Like, to him, it doesn't even exist.
I right. Should we grab some comments? Do you want to look at a couple of these?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's grab some comments. Bring them in here.
Because here's a good one. So Morgan says,
Yeah.
when your government doesn't have your back anymore, who else but community and your support network to lift you up and care for you? Right.
Right.
For what it's worth, though, like, I don't know if I've ever felt my government really had my back. I mean, I hate to say it like that, but that's kind of what I think. It's sort of like, I never expected my government really to do anything for me. And maybe this is coming from where I came from, coming from, for lack of a better way of saying this, the white male privilege. Shit. Maybe it's a result of that, but I never expected my government to be. I mean, expected my government always to be good, but not to have to support me. Like, I guess when I think of, we're gonna have to revolt, I'm like, what century is this? We're in 21st century United States. How does that happen? I don't know.
It happens because history repeats itself. And something like this again will be repeated maybe 50, 60, 70 years from now.
Right.
And it's really what interludes change and turning chaos into order.
Yeah. I have a small bit of fear because you triggered this memory in me because you said history will repeat itself, and part of me goes, I wonder when that first transgender Madam President has been elected, right? Envision with me.
Okay.
Will she end up declaring war on the Project 2025 people, essentially, and suddenly, this seriously a minority, because Trump's got to have alienated some 3/4 of the population, Madam President, Madam Transgender President is going to is going to do the same thing, which I think won't be moral. I know
I'm
there's
a
a
little
period
confused
there.
right now with your. I'm a little confused right now. Is this your hypothetical?
Yeah,
Um. Okay.
yeah. Imagine history repeats itself. Okay, history, because you
Yeah.
said
And then
history repeats. Yeah,
yeah.
imagine. So
Okay.
I
Gotcha.
wonder, right? And it may not even take 50, 60, 70 years in the future, the first
Mhm.
transgender president. What if just the next liberal president goes, you know what, we are getting the hell rid of you people, the
What
people
if in
who
the
were in the Trump administration, sorry, it's kind of supported it. I don't know that that's
Well,
going
I
to be
guess
any
it depends
better.
how far in the future that is, and if that administration's even existing anymore.
It's like a year and a half, I think. Some
Okay.
midterm elections, I
I
suspect. But
see.
anyway, a thought. Let's see here. Let me here's another comment. So Margie says, if we're at cultural war, it's not one that we started, but we can do our best to end it. Yeah, I didn't ask for this.
I have to say something though. Who is this, Marge?
Yeah, Margie. Yeah.
Margie, thank you for this. Just there's no right and wrong in our verbalization and contemplation and integration and connection. But something that I felt from that comment right now is, what if there's a lot within our consciousness that we're not fully aware of, that's circling around our aura and our vibration and frequency, and perhaps as a collective we did provoke something like this to happen in order for there to be a
Mm.
bigger, more positive change. So, if we can think that everything happens in a positive light and everything's happening positively, and if only from the situation a positive result can be a result, then perhaps we did collectively create this in order to create something bigger for us.
That's a cool point. I like that. Can we? Oh, and incidentally, here's Margie also brings up martial law. I know there are other comments, and we'll get to them, but I do
Oh,
want to
great.
say, Margie says that martial law would allow Trump to send troops anywhere for any reason without restriction. The Constitution is already null and void, and I don't know if that means the Constitution becomes null and void when martial law is invoked, or what you're saying there, Margie. But um, anyway, I see the point. This has been kind of heavy. We had talked a little bit about forgiveness as well. The idea of forgiveness. Do you want to
Well, before
switch
we go
topics?
into Sorry, but
Yeah,
before we do that and go into tell, you said there were other comments.
there are. Yeah, let's blow through them. All right.
Okay.
So Margie also brings up one of the upsides, which is one of the things you brought up, Lino, as well.
Yeah.
One upside of the outrageous and clearly illegal activities of the Republican regime. I like use of the word regime. Uh, is that if anything will ignite vigorous opposition, then that is it. Yeah, totally true.
Sure.
Totally
I
true.
mean, they're definitely being exposed this way, and
Oh my
so
gosh, yeah.
yeah. So perhaps this is needed in order for them to expose the complete opposite of the awareness that we're all really seeking, which is true connectivity.
Yeah. All the cards are on the table. That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah, it's hard to believe those cards are on the table, but so Bobby says the USA has declared war on Canada. We have a travel advisory for LGBTQ people to travel to the US. I know myself, I will never feel safe visiting the States. And then says sorry. Don't be sorry about that. Yeah, wow.
Where is Bobby? Bobby, where are you at?
I think in Canada. For some reason, I was thinking,
Bobby is in Canada.
yeah, I thought she was in England for some reason, but I'm thinking of somebody
Okay.
else. So, Bobby, if you want to
Hmm.
drop that in the comments.
Yeah.
Zoe makes a good point here, too, and I like this. Well, I don't like the point. I don't like that you have to say it. Zoe says one of the scariest things is they have supporters who themselves are part of the groups that are being targeted, but they don't realize it.
That is one of the most astounding. I don't understand.
Right? Bobby says she's in Ontario, by the way.
Okay,
Um,
thank you.
I'm
how?
just imagining the creepy voice. The call is coming from inside the house.
But it is, isn't it? I mean, how I've seen women who are just like, oh yeah, totally. Why do we need bodily autonomy? Really? Because it's not going to stop there. Suddenly you're going to become like a matrix reproducing machine. Like, if you're cool with that, are you cool with that? And I never get that bad. I think we love making excuses for our politicians too. Because one thing I heard a lot before Trump was elected is, well, he doesn't mean it that way. I realize it sounds like
what way does he mean
it? Right.
I'm pretty sure he does.
Says it sounds like genocide. I realize it sounds like fascism, but he doesn't really mean it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
And then you literally have things like snippets from the Diary of Anne Frank and like that being posted today. And then you've got a bunch of people commenting, being like, oh, don't be stupid, blah, blah, blah. He's never. And they're just assuming that it's about Trump. It's like, interesting that you would assume that, considering this is from, in the 1940s.
Right.
Yeah, right? Wow.
That's really rough.
That is. Holy moly.
I don't think I saw that. Where did you see that?
Me neither. I didn't see that.
I've seen a few posts like that. The quote, it's relatively famous. Kids get home from their schools to find that their parents have been, taken away, yada, yada. It's like this list of things that she went through. And people will comment under that and go, well, that's what's necessary. He's doing what we need to do in order to make America great and to fix this problem and yada, yada. And then the comment back is like, actually, that's referring to Hitler's regime. So if you're associating that with Trump, then maybe you should think about that.
Right.
Yeah. Wow.
That's rough. It's very rough.
It really is. It really is. And that's part of the history that's repeating itself.
Yeah. Oh, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the last comments we got here for the first bit here is Margie says she does abhor violence. She is absolutely the last person to call for acts of violence, and indeed to react violently would be to sell out. So Margie says, I agree with you, Lino.
Thanks, Margie.
It would be a big sellout, and I don't know. Then how does it say in the Declaration of Independence? I'm trying to remember where this was. In times of strife, when the United States was like, we're being held down by the man, which was England at the time, right? King Singleburp slapped you back, and I don't think that was the guy's name, but I'm pretty sure it was pretty close. Who the hell was it? Was it Charles the Second? Charles the Second, I think. I don't know.
Gosh, I've got no idea.
Yeah, I just found out that George Washington was gay. Did you know that?
Wait, what? I didn't.
Yeah, I was reading about that George Washington was gay.
We'll go.
And obviously he grew marijuana.
That much I did know, right? That he was like, because I know he wrote a few papers, I guess you'd call them, on the medical benefits of kind of fascinating that way the hell back at the beginning of the country that he's like, yeah, you should totally smoke out. You'll feel so much better. Look how I feel.
Hey, I think Trump needs to just roll a big fatty and take a big rip and hang out with some of us for an evening.
I think that would be perfect. The only
power
thing
of green.
We're gonna have to find people willing to hang out with him.
That's true. Yeah.
I'm already looking at Jasmine's face. Is like, shit, don't send him to Australia. Please, don't send him to Australia.
Right.
I'm pretty happy being on my little island over here.
Yeah.
Hey, Jasmine, I heard a lot that there's a lot of Aussies that support Trump.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
There is. Unfortunately, it is kind of a worldwide thing that is happening. We're not just seeing the shift to this hyper-conservatism only in America. It's influencing a lot of places. And unfortunately, it's interesting that the leaders of various countries are all shifting roughly the same time. Like America's leadership changed, and then we have a federal election coming up very, very soon, like in 2 months. There's a federal election coming up, I think, in October in Canada as well. And the threat of that super conservative, right-leaning government taking a hold is really, really strong right now. Not just like in Canada as well. I know there's a big threat around that at the moment. In Australia, there's been advertisements galore, literally following Trump's words verbatim. Like one of the political parties at the moment is called the Trumpet of Patriots.
Oh boy.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. One of their front page advertisements recently was literally Trump's words in his inauguration speech. There are only two genders. We must protect kids from confusion and yada, yada. Front pages everywhere, like all on our radios, all on TV. They are really, really pushing. And it is horrible. It's horrible to see. Like the impact of the stuff happening in the US is very widespread.
I want to ask you a question, though, about that. And I'm not saying I don't believe you. Because these are advertisements. Do you think this is going to be, because you called it a shift toward hyper-conservatism. And I'm curious if what we're seeing is a shift toward hyper-conservatism or a shift in marketing that now allows some of these hyper-conservative views to, I don't know how I want to put it, but to be popular, to become popular. It's not even the word I want to use, but hopefully my point's getting across. And I don't know. Because, I mean, then at the same time, I read a statistic that said something like, and this was reported in a CNN article that said, because here was the headline. So it says the headline that people support the Democratic Party less and less. I'm screwing up the headline, but it was something like that. And I went, really? Let me look at that. And it says it's something like 34% of the population, or 34% of maybe people who identify as liberal support the direction of the Democratic Party. And I went, that's a bummer, because wow, 2/3 are like, I'm going to be in this party, but like I don't really support what you guys are doing. And but then they related this to the Republican Party, and it was not 34%, but it was something like maybe 40. I mean, it was a couple percent higher. All right. So it was still close to 60% of people who were registered Republican didn't agree with the direction the Republican Party was taking. And then if you go in the general, the general people, it was something like 2/3 of people don't believe either party is going in a good direction. So let me try to sum this up.
Yeah.
No, I cannot. Let me sum up.
What?
Sorry, Inigo Montoya just falls out of me. Let me explain. No, there is.
Oh my gosh.
So, what? Anyway, point being that 2/3 of the population believes that neither political party can pull this out of the mud. So when I hear a shift toward hyper-conservatism, I go, I don't know. But what we saw in the last election was also literally 1/3 of eligible voters not even bothering. More than 1/3 of eligible voters not even bothering to vote. Because they're just like, what's the point? So,
well, that's one thing that I'm grateful for being in Australia, is that our voting system is a bit different than America's. Like, for one, we have a compulsory voting kind of thing. You get fines if you don't vote. We have very high voter turnout.
That's great.
So our government more closely reflects the majority of the people, which I think is really what government should do.
Right.
And also we have preferential voting. So we have, if we've got a list of 10 people, the votes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you put them in order that you prefer, their policies and whatnot. And then the votes are tallied so that wherever a majority is formed, it might be on the second preference, most people prefer that. Wherever they can form a majority, then that's who takes government. But then if we have a minority government, like nobody forms the majority, we don't have 51% of people saying this particular party, then we form a minority government where we have that party working with the other most preferred party.
What a great idea.
It's honestly so much better than this person or this person. It's going to be shit either way, but
right.
Because people don't have confidence in that.
Right. You mentioned there were fines if you don't vote?
Yeah.
I kind of think it should be an incentive for what it's worth. Just make Election Day a national holiday. Like, how tough would that be?
Both carrot and stick.
Maybe.
Wait, say that again, Jasmine?
Maybe both. Have a little bit of carrot, a little bit of stick.
Oh, right, okay. Right, you got the day off, so you better go. We're going to fine your ass $100.
Do we have any other comments?
We do.
We have a few.
So Margie has brought, well, so first of all, Zoe said her friend from high school does. And this was in reference to being a Trump supporter. Oof. I'm curious how that friendship is going, Zoe.
I don't know how she's maintaining it.
Right? I think it would be hard. Margie, who is in New Zealand now, just to remind you, so Margie says a little bit above, so she mentions Canada can be pretty awful. Margie left Canada, is now in New Zealand, and brings up that New Zealand's current government is right-wing now, but I get the feeling this will only be a one-term thing. I wonder if that's what we're seeing, that there's this big shift that people go, I don't know, give it a shot, let's see. And then finishes by saying people are feeling pretty disgusted, and at least in Wellington. And I'm hoping that it's exactly what you were saying, Lino, that once we all get disgusted, hopefully what that does is spur a healing process. Once we all hate the government completely, we'll go, all right, let's try something new.
I feel so.
I hope. Morgan brings up that her friends who are Trump supporters didn't want to be mine anymore. Yeah. So Morgan says she changed, but did they? Could she just not see it? But now she feels really grounded in her values. I don't... Lino, do you know anybody? Well, I mean, both of you. Do you know people personally who support all of this? Any of this? Do you?
I do, yeah. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm Jasmine. I'm like butting in, but let's go with Jasmine first, and I'll let you, and I'll go in afterwards.
Oh, my answer's pretty easy. I don't seem to have that around me for whatever reason. Apart from a few people who are, or in my business mastermind that I was a part of for a couple of years.
Yeah.
There has been, it's really confused me actually, because there's some people who I otherwise highly respect, and I think they're really intelligent people, and I've clicked with them in a whole bunch of different ways. I'm like, yeah, this person's awesome, coming out in support of Trump. And it really confuses me because I'm like, am I missing something here? Or like, what? But it's worth noting as well that those people have been kind of middle-aged white men who are wealthy. So I don't know. He seems to appeal to that group quite a bit.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Lena? Because I'm more talking... Oh, I'm sorry, Jasmine. Say that again.
I was saying the same thing as you. Like, what about you, Lino?
Because I'm thinking of like personal friends, I mean, Jasmine, did you
So
have
as
personal
far as
friends?
like personal friends go,
Yeah.
not personally, not any of my personal friends, but I'm like acquaintances, or I am friends with some of my brother's friends. Yeah, after my brother passed away, I kind of acquired a lot of his friends, and a lot of them are
Mm,
Trumpers, and I don't understand, but they treat me
No.
with respect, and they're very dearing to me and loving to me, and so I'm just don't bring the T word around, and unless it's trans word.
right.
You know, but but don't, I mean, but other than that, they seem to respect me and my mother, and they are white, you know, white. I I don't know, I don't know what, but they love my mother and I, and we're Latinos, and I'm trans, and they seem cool with me. And um, my best friend, who's my roommate, he has an identical twin brother, and his twin brother is a Trumper. But he did tell me that it was maybe during the election where one of them, either his brother's wife or something, was saying something about trans people, blah blah, and that my roommate turned around. And he goes, "You do know who my roommate is, right?" And then they just kind of
Mm.
just stayed quiet afterwards. It's like they forget. Then they get
Right.
into the zone, and then they're like, "Oh yeah," and they love me. I mean, I'm welcome with hugs and kisses when I see them. So yeah, did you forget? Do you forget who I am or what I've gone through? Or so
Mm.
it's just like they go blindsided, and they kind of get into this tunnel vision, almost like they're in a trance, you know. And it's
Mm,
really interesting the way that his supporters are. They're entranced.
Do you ever
I got
get the
it.
whole like, oh, I'm not talking about you though. I'm talking about those other trans people,
Yes.
the ones that are coming
right.
after our kids, the ones that are blah, blah, blah. And it's like, right. Because
Yeah,
I've
no, I
had
haven't
that
heard
before
that, and
where,
I don't know how I would react
oh,
if I heard that.
Really? Oh my gosh. Yeah, I've gotten
because
that.
I've
But
definitely had that.
yeah.
Where people have been like relatively respectful and everything, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I agree with yada yada that you're saying here," but then they'll switch on me when they go, "Do you believe that kids should be able to have access to hormone replacement therapy?" And I'm like, "Yes, because I was a kid and I was trans."
Right. Right.
So, so yes, I do support that. Do I think there does need to be considerations and being cautious around it? Yeah, of course. But sometimes people will switch completely with that.
They
And
do.
it's like they respect part of my experience, but not the other bits that only I really understand. Like they don't
Yeah.
understand it. I don't expect them to. They didn't grow up as a trans kid.
Mhm.
But it's interesting.
It is. I've gotten
Hmm.
that before though. The people who go, there's I don't like those weirdo transgender people. Then
Hmm.
I've gone, wait, I am like one of those transgender people. And they go, well, not like you. Like the weirdo
Mhm.
transgender people. Like you're an okay transgender person. The other ones are weirdos. And I think that there's
What does that mean?
my wife and I were having this conversation last night. So I actually want to follow up on this because wouldn't you think there would be a cognitive dissonance?
Well, yeah.
Mhm.
Wouldn't you think that they go, well, I know who you are and you are awesome. I'm, not talking about me, obviously, but let's say you, Lino, or you, Jasmine.
Eh,
They go, okay, well, yeah, I know you, but all the other weirdo transgender people, they're terrible. And I wonder, so I'm going to throw this out there. There is a stereotypical, and you even saw it in what's his face's Trump's campaign. You're like, yeah, I don't remember his name. You even saw in his campaign stuff, right? He's like, look, the Kamala is for they, them, right? And they show people that you go, okay, you're showing gender non-conforming people, not transgender people trying just to like live a normal life, right? I'm just going to go to work and just be like a person. Um, I wonder if part of this is because the media will use representation of transgender people that they try to find like the least, for lack of a better word here,
well, of
the
course,
least
that's all done on
passing,
purpose.
right?
Yeah, of course.
So when you get somebody who's, I don't want to use the word convincing because it sounds so horrible. When you get somebody who who seems not stereotypical, I'm really struggling here, folks, and I'm sorry if I'm
Can I
offending,
jump
but
in on this?
please do because I.
I,
But do you know what I'm saying?
I want to give you a little bit of an example. It might help you finish your thoughts.
Thanks.
One of the groups that I'm part of has a guy who's like pretty, he's a masculine dude. He's a business owner and like a speaker, and he's also really into all things like sustainability, like energy wise, and a follower of Elon. And so originally I was a little bit cautious. I'm like, oh, and he's also brought up Catholic as well.
Oh gosh.
I was a little bit cautious because that particular set of backgrounds and interests and whatnot sometimes come along with a bit of transphobia.
Right.
Now, I sensed a shift in the way that he interacted with me after me saying that I was trans, because he was like, oh, what do you do? Where are you from? Yada, yada. And I explained diversity, inclusion. He's like, oh, you look like you wouldn't know diversity if it bloody hit you on the head. It's like, young friggin' white girl. Like, what's diverse about you? But I find that there's that sort of perception there. And then when I do come out as trans, that shift in perspective happens.
Yeah.
Now, there's a couple of different ways with this. This particular person, like, if they knew the first time that I met them, and that shift was noticeable. I was like, oh my gosh, follows mask. So what kind of like thing exposed to? What does he think about trans people? I don't freaking know, but whatever. But I keep showing up. I keep just being me. And I have noticed over time a shift has happened where it feels like he actually respects me a lot. Because I talk about a lot of really poignant things. I talk about a lot of interesting educational topics, and it's things that he's also interested in.
Right.
And so I feel like we've now bonded on a level that completely disregards anything identity-wise.
Right.
It's like, yeah, we're both into self-development. We both really enjoy business. We both enjoy sustainability and like energy and yada yada. And we're passionate about those topics. And it's great. We can have really great conversations around that. And I think people are a little shocked by that sometimes. And I do love that when I get to just connect with people on those other levels and then challenge those assumptions that they have by just existing. And they don't realize that that's most trans people. That is most trans people.
You, not to dump on this, I'm going to tell you, not to dump on this. You know very well, I hope, that you have what we've called passing privilege, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
That's part of what makes that shift effective.
Right. Well, and so that's my point. When you get somebody who goes, yeah, but you're not one of those weirdo transgender people. There's what they're talking about are those weirdo transgender people who don't have passing privilege. I'm just going to throw it out. And the media loves to find these people. Loves to say, look at what a transgender person is. See, are you sure you want your children to be around these people? Look at this guy. It's a guy in a skirt with a beard. And people go, ooh. And then they look, if somebody put up a picture of Jasmine Vine, if they go, look at these weird transgender people, Jasmine Vine people, 9 out of 10 men are going to go, damn, really? Wow. I need to meet more transgender people.
Right.
It reminded me of that meme. It was like, where's the trans flag. Where's the people from? Like, what country is this? They're all so hot.
Right. I think that's great. That's what I'm talking about. So, we have this. I want to say that a lot of the media tries to find representation that ultimately does not have passing privilege. And I struggled saying that, and I'm just, may as well just come out and be I was going to say be straight about it. That's sort of funny.
Oh, there's one thing that I want to touch on here.
Go ahead.
Because yes, I do think passing privilege is a big part of that, because, for example, there's been people who I've, worked in a HR job for 3 years alongside them
Yeah.
in their team, and then they find out I'm trans, and they're like, "What? Really?" And they're like, that to me is a really effective way of shifting people's perspectives. Not everyone has the ability to do that, of course, but there are two different types of passing privilege, like trans people, that I've noticed. There's people who will use that to shit on other people and do the exact same thing that conservatives do to trans people and say, "Oh, well, I'm one of the normal ones. I just live my life normally and pass, and I don't go out with cat ears on," or whatever the bloody, the stereotypes are. And they will weaponize those things and make it as though all other trans people are the weirdos.
Yes, right.
But please accept me, but screw them. I'm just going to step all over them.
Yeah.
And then there's the other type who I hope that I embody, who, when that type of stuff comes up, I will advocate for the other trans people. I'll be like, "Oh, you clearly take it seriously," or "you blah, blah, blah." And I'll be like, "Excuse me, not everyone has the ability to blend in the way that I do. And that doesn't mean that they're less valuable or less whatever than me." And I'll use that as an opportunity to get them to think about that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, if I was born with much more prominent masculine features, I would still be the exact same fucking person. But you seem to think that I'm better or normal because I passed you. It grosses me out, honestly.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But my point in bringing any of that up is that I think that it is not cognitive dissonance, because there is a separation. There is the people who are, how was it put, taking it seriously? Is that what you said? Jasmine?
Yeah, like I've heard that from a bunch of people.
Okay.
It's like, "Oh, because no, not like you. Like you've got real hair. You don't have a wig, and you look like this and blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, okay, so I'm performing your perception of gender in a way that you're finding acceptable to class me as normal. I'm like, that's literally it. Cool.
Well, in a way where they feel comfortable.
Yes.
Yeah, it's palatable and comfortable for them.
Yeah. But that's the separation.
Yeah.
I don't wait. What'd you say, Jasmine?
I've got another example of this, like from the other side around. Something really challenged my perspective recently.
All right. Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Oh my God. Nowadays, my circle is very queer. It's very poly. It's very open, very it's queer. And I don't really spend a lot of time around people who aren't.
Mm-hmm.
And I've become closer with someone recently, and someone I'd consider a friend really well now, and it's just not like monogamous, straight, cis, and I feel so conflicted. Like I found myself not knowing how to interact with this person, because I'm like, oh my gosh, like in my circle, they're the minority.
Right.
A cis-het white man. I'm like, what the heck? I don't know if this is, I've only just started experiencing this, and it's made me realize, oh my gosh, like nowadays that's a minority for me, and I'm getting a little bit of a taste of what other people might experience when they've got the token trans in their life, or like the gay best friend kind of thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like you're my white cis het ambassador. Like I'll go to you for advice around that. Neurotypical too. What the fuck?
That's awesome. Can I ask though? So Lino, you're a psychologist. Let's talk about that cognitive dissonance, right? I mean, because I think that, I mean, Jasmine's even seeing it, that like there's a separation between, well, you're one of those normal cis-het white dudes. You're not like one of those weirdos cis-het white. We do a separation. I think that's I think that's what it takes. Anyway, that's I'm prattling, but you tell me, Lena. What you're the psychologist.
But tell you, I mean, what about it though? What do you want to know if I have any experiences? Why do I think that people do that, or what about it?
Well, I wonder. So I don't think that's cognitive dissonance, is what I'm saying,
Okay.
because I think we separate people out. That certain people are not part of those weirdo people, I
I'm
guess.
not sure what that does not sound like cognitive dissonance to me. I'm not sure what if there's a proper term to even define that. To me, it
I
just
think
sounds
it's the
like
mere
just
exposure
separation.
effect.
What's that?
I think it's the mere exposure effect,
Mirror exposure effect? I've
where
never even heard
people
that.
tend to develop a liking or disliking for things merely because they are familiar with them.
Mm,
Well, that makes sense.
yeah, I hear
Mm.
that.
Because there's a whole bunch of studies around do you believe that trans people should have the right for this, that, and the other, yada, yada. And people who don't know a trans person will consistently say, like, the statistics will be less, that they don't believe that they should because they've got this idea in their head about what it means. But people who know a trans person, who are with one, who even love a trans person, maybe it's a family member or a partner or whatever, statistically, they're like, oh, absolutely, they deserve all the rights and yada, yada. And I think that's the mere exposure effect at play, or I don't know. Maybe there's
I
another
don't.
term for it. Familiarity effect.
It's a good
I have no idea.
because I'll part of where this came from. You'll notice I'm just stammering and sputtering. Part of where this came from, though, is that like I know somebody who is exceptionally conservative, Catholic,
Mm.
conservative, Trumper, um, who then sent me a flower for International, or was it National Women's Day, International Women's Day, sent me a flower for International Women's Day. So, like, how do you? I don't know if that's a mirror effect because this person has also said, oh no, there's nobody who should be able to transition, would limit all gender affirming care, doesn't believe that transgender people exist, sent me a flower. I would contend that that is the separation, not necessarily that it's familiarity, because this person knows me very well, has known me for a long, long time, and it's my familiarity with me has not changed the opinions otherwise.
Mm.
And it's I don't know if it's because I have passing privilege, because who knows what the point is, or just this is somebody who's known me for a really long time. And like Zoe says, where was this? Um, Zoe had said, quoting my friend, "I am an exception regarding his views on
Mm.
trans people." I think I just get a pass. I think I just get like, well, yeah, that's Amy.
Yeah,
Everybody else though is messed up. Get rid of those people.
we're the exception,
Mm.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
where else that goes, but it's a weird phenomenon,
Hmm.
and I think they don't
And where the
experience
cognitive
cognitive
Well, but you know
dissonance.
what?
dissonance does come in,
As you're bringing
I
this up,
think, is where, oh,
go ahead.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I think there's a little bit of a delay.
Oh, okay.
Um, what was I going to say? Those people, I think the cognitive dissonance comes in where that same person that goes, oh, yeah, you're right, though, you're fine, will vote against your rights every time.
And I think that's a demonstration that it's not cognitively dissonant.
Mm.
That they go, no, it's on principle. This is a right principle, but you get a
Mm.
pass. So you're separated out from the rest of the cognitive
Mm.
process. But Lino had something. That was my thought. Go Lino.
Well, I was just gonna take this back to our how our discussion began in talking about how history repeats itself, and that
Mm,
all minority groups at some point have had to go through this. You know, at some point I was the only like the Latino buddy in a white demographic. You know, high
Mm.
school where I grew up. You know, or I mean, I specifically remember once being in the second grade, and I had a Caucasian little friend that came to visit me. She was about 8, and her parents told my parents something along the lines of, "Wow, you're really clean for Mexicans." And I was 8, and I remember even I was insulted at 8. And I was like, "What are you talking? What?"
Mm.
But that's an example on some of the things that minorities go through, or when someone
Yeah.
knows, so basically we were the only exception to them at that point, of like Latinos or Mexicans that were not whatever they thought we were. I don't even know where that
Right.
comes from. But
Right.
yet we're the ones cleaning their offices and their homes. So I mean,
Mm.
right?
That's a good point.
So I mean, it's I just feel that a lot of minority groups go through this before we're finally able to get out of this box that they put us in.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Do you want to write a poem really quickly, Lino? While Jasmine and I
I
are.
wrote one before we
Come
started because
on.
Oh,
before we started, we were going to talk about forgiveness, which I think would be great to talk about next topic. So
Yes, let's do that.
mm.
so I started it with that. Yeah, I wrote this before we came on
All
the
right.
air. So
Do
here
you
we go.
you're gonna do this
What, do
now?
we have any comments before I read this?
Yeah, there.
Anything
So
else?
the main ones. So Zoe says if election day became a public holiday, anyone who worked the election would get holiday pay. Yeah, I believe
It
that.
would be further incentive, I think.
Yeah,
Sure, right. That makes
right.
sense.
And then Morgan, Zoe, and Margie have all said they are one of the weird ones. I think all three of us here. Well, I won't speak for Jasmine or Lino, but I am definitely one of the weird transgender people. It's just how it goes.
I mean, but
And
at one point, we were all one of the weird ones, and at one point, as a human species, if you really want to look at it, when you're going through puberty, you kind of don't look like an adult, or you're kind of in between like weirdness. So it's
right,
like we're all weird together.
right,
Mm.
right. That's what I believe. Oh, I
Also
wasn't. I
weird in
don't.
ways. I don't know.
What's
What?
that?
And also weird in what ways?
Yeah, what
Sometimes
is
I feel
weird,
like
and
I'm
what
not weird
does
enough because
define
I'm
weird
like,
anyway?
I don't enjoy D&D. I don't enjoy a lot of these like stereotypes and all of that. But I found something the other day that was
Cat
like
ears.
trans femmes. What did it say? It was funny and affirming because they're like, no, you're the type of trans femme that makes hour-long videos on YouTube. I'm like, oh, that's a stereotype too, is it?
Wow,
Okay, good. I at least meet one.
talk about specifics.
Yeah.
I
Wow.
know.
Mhm.
Ooh, quite
I
funny.
And
don't.
also, I think there's a difference too, because as you were saying that, I was thinking of the Doors song "Strange."
Mm,
People are strange
yeah.
when you're a stranger, and I'm like, hang on a minute, but is weird strange? I don't think so, right? I think there's a difference between weird and strange. But anyways,
Yes.
Hmm.
Right. When you're weird, faces don't come out of the rain. It's only when you're
only when you're
strange.
strange.
Yeah, faces come out of this. No one remembers your name. It's only when you're strange. Jasmine's going,
When you're
oh, old
strange,
people.
Oh my god.
I
So,
love it.
all right,
Yeah,
yeah. All right, so you got a poem.
I do have a poem. Okay, here it goes. Here it goes. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I love you. And if it's about forgiveness, then it's within forgiveness that I will find fullness. And if it's about letting go, then it's in the dance of letting a dandelion blow in the wind where I will find flow. And if it's about taking a dance with life, then it's in this chance where I will find a new place to go, a new me to show, and a brand new glow. That same glow that exists when we are able to forgive. And it's in this forgiveness where I say it's time to shake hands and say thank you to the past. Okay.
I don't
I
have a
feel
whole
like I
lot
want
more
to
to
hear
say.
that one a few more times.
I love how it comes in from in the middle of a conversation. I love that. And if it's
Thank you.
about forgiveness, that is a good one.
Thank you so much.
That's such a good
Appreciate all
poet.
of you.
Such a good
Thank you.
poet.
I appreciate that.
Ah,
All right. Well, so do we shut it down then? I guess it's time.
Shut the fort
6:04.
down.
Shut,
It's time to
shut
shut down.
down. That's right.
oh,
All right. Well, as you all know, we could talk
no,
about
hang
this for
on.
hours. What?
I was thinking, should we catch up on the comments really quickly?
Sure, let's do it.
I thought I.
Margie, the hardest. obstacle I've faced, including from trans people, is being summarily excluded from being defamed. And these people block me in every way, making, oh gosh, how do I say the word? Refutation. Impossible. Refutation.
Yeah, Margie's story is not a just one. How about if I throw that out there? Yeah. Someday we need to figure out how to have another guest, and you'd have to hear Margie's story. I wouldn't be able to do it justice, but because her story doesn't involve a lot of it. So, but that was one of the it's an interesting story. I think that was the only one we didn't read. If I missed something, everybody, forgive me.
From Zoe, absolutely one of the weird ones.
Yeah.
Right. Morgan says, thank you, a nice poem.
Oh, thank you. You're welcome.
Thanks for hanging out.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
All right. Well, let's do the outro. All right. Well, clearly we can talk about this for hours because we're about to, but we're going to end it right here, right now, right here, right now. So if you have any requests, that's my only reference to pop culture, right? I don't have a whole lot more. I mean, I could sing a Lady Gaga song, but I don't think she qualifies anymore as like pop culture because she's too old. I'm sorry, Steph. You know, this is what I hear. You're losing relevance, but I still love you. If you have any requests for future topics, then we could play the doctor and cure your disease. There's my Lady Gaga reference. So please let us know by leaving a comment below. We just might talk about it next week, and then we'll give you a good shout out for the idea, because that's what we kind of do here. Thank you so much for joining in on our conversation. We think you're pretty cool for wanting to focus on our shared humanity. So Jasmine, thanks so much. Dr. Lino, thanks so much. Sending you all. We got Margie, Morgan, Zoe, Bobby. I'm missing somebody, I'm sure. Who did I miss? Anybody? If I've missed your name.
And other people watching who haven't commented as well. Thank you for hanging out.
Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
See you next week. Oh, hang on. Actually, we should not, because we're not going to be here next week, right? Next Tuesday.
Next week?
April 1st.
Oh, that's next Tuesday already?
That's the week after.
No way.
Oh, it is the week after.
Yeah, that's not next week. I'm like, hold on a minute. No, that's not next. That's, yeah.
Yeah, no, the week after next. It's literally 2 weeks from today is my birthday, and I'm also helping facilitate a panel on that day. So.
Oh, really? An interesting tidbit. My birthday is in 2 days. My birthday is on Wednesday.
Oh, well, happy birthday!
Thank you. Hey, and also...
Well, technically, your birthday is in 1 day for me.
That's right. And a really
your birthday's in 1 day?
Well, because she's a day ahead of us, right? So, and a super cool thing, because I'm going to throw this out here because it's so awesome. Morgan will actually be here in Colorado tomorrow. I'm going to pick her up because we're going to drive our asses out to a pagan conference in Minnesota. It's going to be pretty awesome.
Beautiful.
We're going to drive the rest of us out there, but certainly our asses are going out to Minnesota. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait to see Morgan again, because it's been a year at least that more than a year, right? So thank you very much for the happy birthdays.
All right, I'll get on a flight.
Oh my God, Jasmine, when I was in Thailand.
Actually, no, I'm not. I'm not coming to America for a while, but I'll be there in spirit.
But wasn't that something? Didn't we talk about that when I was in Thailand? I'm like, hey, if I could fly down to, how long does that take? Oh, 6 hours? Oh,
not that long.
Jeez.
Maybe not. What's that?
Oh dear. Not that long, considering.
Was it not 6 hours? I don't remember, but all right. Well, that's it. Thank you so much, everybody, for the happy birthdays, and thanks so much. And we will see you next week. We'll do it again.
Next week. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.